Who's going to be the Gnosia next? Before we get to today's video, I want to take a moment to talk about Patreon. That's right, we are on Patreon now, and we have a bunch of tiers with a bunch of great rewards. You can subscribe and get things like early access to all reactions, depending on your tier, depends on which reactions you get early access to. You can vote on polls exclusive to patrons that will help determine future reaction series and more. You will get to just have various choices in terms of like getting to choose future reactions I react to, getting to choose first impressions I check out, all kinds of different rewards, and possibly more coming in the future. We're still new at this. We're still figuring things out. It's a process. It's a process. But we have multiple tiers, so whatever you would be able to donate, if you're able and willing to donate, is appreciated. It helps me out, it helps the channel out, it helps us grow. It's going to help just, standardly. It's just something new to check out. Plus, if you like getting the reactions early, that's also a plus. But it is optional. If you're unable to do it, that's completely fine. All reactions will come to YouTube just a little bit later, a week later or so. So that all being said, thank you as always so much, and let's get on with today's video. And with that being said, hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 10 of Gnosia. It's been like a month and a half since we last got to this. We put it on break, but I said that I wanted to get back to it as soon as possible. I said I wanted to get back to this series the first real chance I got, and so that's what we're doing. Unlike some shows on the channel, we're actually, not having too long of a break with this one. But yeah, we're getting back to this, and I'm definitely excited to see where we go with it. Because the last two episodes had been insane. Just everything that was going on with Kakrushka, I believe her name was. And then Yuri actually getting to be one of the Gnosia for once. Also, having a little thing start with Comet, like there's a little bit of a romance there, maybe. I don't know if it'll ever actually go anywhere, but it is cool to see. It is fun. Also, maybe that's just because, like, Comet's my favorite character so far. And I did put out that tier list. I think it was in the last video I did. It was in one of the two last videos I did. I put out a tier list of, like, ranking my favorite characters. Ranking all the characters so far from, like, favorite to least. And that could absolutely change. There's plenty of this to go still, so. But yeah, I'm just happy to be back. I've been waiting to get back to this, and I just needed to find the right spot to open up. And with Hell's Paradise having finished on Thursdays, we now have that spot. So I know the season just ended. I know it just, like, actually ended, like, in terms of airing. And so we have, like, no real limits. We can, like, record a bunch of these ahead of schedule and stuff, which is what I've been doing a lot lately since opening up the Patreon. I've been, like, getting further and further ahead with recordings, like, upwards of a month ahead with some things. And it's just because it keeps everything going, so if I ever need to take a day off or whatnot, I can do so without any trouble. The only exceptions to this are the things that are, currently airing. I can't exactly like record ahead with those because they're currently going. And it's not like a batch release for a lot of them. It's like they're releasing one episode a week. So yeah. That's the only exception I have to work with here. But otherwise, it's just yeah, I can do as many episodes as I can get to. And so like we'll see how that continues to go, but everything's been going pretty fine since the start of the year. I've had no real issues, so hopefully this way of doing things has helped out. But either way, so I don't know where this is going to go next. We still have some mysteries to solve, like with Kakrushka. Um, and then we still have to learn much more about these characters because that's the entire thing about like filling up the cube thing. This other dimensional like living cube. And so we have goals, we have plans, and obviously things can change. There can be new roles added in terms of each loop. And just again, finding out more information about these characters. I'm very curious to see like if any of the ones that I'm not a big fan of so far, if any of them get some really good development that like completely turns me around on them. Because I love when that happens. I love it when a character who I'm not a fan of or just straight up hate ends up becoming a character that I love because the development given to them is amazing. It's just like that would be fantastic. That's just always a plus. So we'll see if that ends up happening here. Because there definitely are a few characters I'm not a fan of, like Jonas, um, or I can't remember their name right now. The high and mighty one who's been there since the beginning. I just can't think of their name. Again, it's been a month and a half, so I have to try and like get all of that back into my head, get back into that mindset. But I'm talking about the one that's like not just high and mighty, but like super intelligent and everything, and is always like able to like counter anyone's statements. I can't remember their name, but again, they've been there since the beginning. But I don't like them. If you saw my tier list, you know I'm not a fan of them. Um, but all of the characters could use some developments, and I'm just excited to see like what we might get, and again how each new loop continues to change or how things continue to like do something fresh and exciting. Because it's like if we get more episodes like episode 8, I believe it was, which is the one where Kakrushka goes crazy and starts killing everyone. If we can get more shit like that, like I will be so happy. Because like completely changing everything, changing the status quo, making things fucking scary, like that's my shit. I love horror, and that was very much a horror themed episode. But we also just need to find out what the fuck was going on there. And again, just a bunch of other stuff too. But I also like how recent episodes have humanized the Gnosia. Not just obviously the characters, but like the idea of the Gnosia themselves as like not necessarily being evil, but just like, you know, trying to survive, trying to live, trying to like, you know, feed basically. We also saw like what they do when they take someone out through the lens of Yuri being one. So yeah, we've gotten a lot more with the past episodes. The series has really begun to step up. And I think we should just continue on and see what happens next and see what else we can learn. So let's get into this next episode and find out. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. Welcome to the Afterthoughts. We'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Now, see, this is what a gender bender episode should be. The problem is it's pretty much never like this. When a show does some kind of, for whatever reason, gender bender episode, it's usually for fan service, and a lot of the times it's either non-canon or because of like some outside source messing with things or whatnot. It's a lot of the times just done for shits and giggles. And sometimes it's not even like a full episode. Sometimes like a creator will make like art of the characters in a gender bent way just because like the fans want to see it. Just recently there was some official art made for a couple characters from Hell's Paradise, Gabi Maru and Abachose, as girls. Normally they're male characters, but there was some official art made of them as girls for, I think it was a mobile game or something. But it's like it's just for the fan service and just for, pleasing people who want to see that kind of stuff. Most of the time when you see this kind of thing in media in general, it's not actually used for like a point. But here, we utilize that along with Rakio, this, like agendered character, I guess is probably the most accurate description of them. I would say agendered is probably, I would say, maybe the closest. I'm sure you'll correct me in the comments if there's a more accurate term, but and I think you guys have told me like different terms and stuff like in the past for how this is all like the different terms they use in Japan for this kind of stuff and all. But I can't remember everything, especially since it's been a month and a half since I last even reacted to this. But yeah, either way, I think like here in America, at least the term that would be closest would probably be agender. But getting to have that conversation with Rakio and everything about gender and like leading into me talking about it and how I view like gender and everything is something that these kinds of gender bender type of episodes don't really go into. And it's a shame because I feel like these discussions on gender, these like getting to talk about like the different views and different interpretations and how gender works differently for every person is something that this would be perfect for going into on. Now, most shows, I feel like, wouldn't have a reason to have a gender bender episode, again, unless it's like some kind of non-canon thing. But this is the kind of show that's like perfect for that because of the time loop situation. Whenever you have a time loop in most things, you can pretty much do anything with it. Because it basically is like these multiple different universes, these multiple different world lines. And in those kind of situations, things like this can be different. I mean, even Steins Gate touched on this a little bit, with having the different world lines, and I believe it was just Ruka whose gender was changed through this. Because Ruka, for those who don't know Steins Gate, is a character who is who identifies as and is seen to be as a male, but is very effeminate in appearance. And there's a point where Okabe helps Ruka like change the world line to make it so that Ruka becomes a girl, like biologically a girl. And it's this thing that like has caused a lot of the fans to see Ruka as trans. But while the idea is nice, I don't think that's necessarily what it's going for. Because unfortunately, like, there's not the best representation for like trans people in a lot of, Japanese anime and whatnot. There are some exceptions here and there where there's like some really good representation, like the anime Wandering Sun, which is about like trans characters and everything. But that's like that's an exception. It's not the rule. And unfortunately, a lot of queer representation is in anime is very tropey and isn't quite as healthy and well handled as it should be. There are, again, there's some exceptions. There are some examples of really good queer representation in anime. There absolutely are. But there's also examples of ones that, whether due to the time that they came out or due to just a clear misunderstanding of queerness, just aren't the best representation. And there's even some things that have like pioneered representation that, if we're being completely honest, just aren't the most well handled because again, the times and misunderstandings of things and everything, and it's not the most healthy or accurate depiction. Like Revolutionary Girl Utena, for all it did to pioneer queerness in anime, it could have been handled better from what I've seen of it. Like even the bit I've seen of it, it's like it could have absolutely been handled better. And then you have something like even Sailor Moon, and there's a lot of tropiness with the queerness in Sailor Moon. It's not as good as it should be. But it's led to us getting better stuff in the more modern day. Stuff like Carol and Tuesday, which has amazing queer rep. Or speaking of Shinichiro Watanabe, you have queer rep with another one of his works recently, Lazarus, that has gotten apparently nominated for Crunchyroll Anime Awards, which that's pretty cool. It definitely deserves it. Um, it's just Shinichiro Watanabe in general is pretty damn good with queer rep. But Shinichiro Watanabe is really good with a lot of different representation, a lot of different themes and stuff like that. It's kind of his thing with his series. Um, but yeah, like every now and again you get like some pretty good queer rep, but a lot of the times it's very tropey or fan servicey, and it sucks. And I love what this series is doing with it. That's kind of the entire point I'm getting at with this entire rant and everything. Like, I don't understand all the intricacies of how, like, the queerness and everything is done within this universe and all the terminologies and whatnot. Um, but it's still, like, naturalized representation that treats them as people and treats gender as something like to be discussed and to be like actively thought about, because it's not just binary, it's not just black and white. And I love that. That's how gender should be viewed. Honestly, it's one of those situations where it's a where it's how do I want to word this? Sorry, my autism is showing. um, I'm having trouble figuring out how to word this, but it's like it's one of those situations where the show is treating it like we want it to be treated, like we want gender and sexuality and whatnot to be treated in real life as a naturalized part of society where we don't have to really question the ideas of like different genders and um different views on that and everything, various non-binary genders. It's like this is stuff that we wish we would have this normalization of in real life. Unfortunately, in real life, it's not quite to that point yet, and that's the reason we need stuff like pride parades and, you know, all of this constant campaigning for. Because things are not naturalized in a healthy, good way yet. We still have to, like, even use labels and explain to people, like, oh, I'm pan, I'm bi, I'm whatever else. Because people still don't see that as just normal, as just like something a person can be into. What we need and want is a society where we don't need to explain that, where we don't need to like tell people. It's like, oh, I'm non-binary, or I'm pansexual, and stuff like that. It's like we want a world where we don't have to tell people that, where we don't have to use the labels. Not that we can't, we just don't need to. We don't need to explain ourselves. But unfortunately, we're in a world where that is still necessary. Just to feel like we belong, just to feel like we can be understood. And it sucks. It sucks ass. It's horrible. But it's where we're at, unfortunately. And so that's why we got to continue to push for better. That's why we have to continue to, like, work on that. Now, despite the gender discussions and stuff with this episode, it didn't use this opportunity to completely derail from the general plot and horror elements of this series, which I like. I like that it still enveloped those as well. Because with everything happening, there's, still the normal Gnosia stuff happening, but also, like, almost out of nowhere, suddenly the slime mold attacks. Because of just kind of a mistake on Comet's part that made the parasite think that she was dead. And so it's trying to find a new host, but unable to find one, and it's killing everybody. And it's just like, Jesus fuck. It's not quite as scary and intense as the Kukrushka episode a couple episodes back, which is mentioned multiple times in here. But it's still pretty freaky. And honestly was just, going to happen, since we've heard about the parasite, the slime mold, in the first place. But speaking of Kukrushka, we actually found out more details here. So Kukrushka is apparently one of two dolls. A human-sized and shaped living doll that Jonas apparently had designed to look like his dead lover. And only one of them is able to move and, be alive. And of course, that's the one that, we saw attack a couple episodes back. The one that's currently in this loop, in the hold here, is also always there. So if we see a Kukrushka, this one's there as well. Now, I don't think we ever still found out why Kukrushka went like crazy, why she attacked, but we do see here that that there is like this big connection. I'm wondering if maybe there's like some kind of like existential thing going on, considering the other doll as well. But it had to do with Remnin, didn't it? Wasn't it also like connected to Remnin? Because she was trying to kill him. Very specifically. And was just killing everyone else as well. So there's definitely something more to all of that. And Jonas wasn't being helpful. Though with this episode not ending the loop, maybe we'll get more information on it. It's possible. Um, but I like that we got a lot more of Sha Ming this time too, and we get to see like Yuri's like view on him and seeing how Yuri sees Sha Ming as like this super kind, caring individual because of all the experiences when they were Gnosia together, and how when acting as a Gnosia, Sha Ming tends to shut himself away because he's actually trying to protect everyone else. And by the end, we even learn, like, at least part of Sha Ming's backstory. Sha Ming grew up on a planet with these intellectualized bonobos. So the intellectualization process is the same thing that happened with Otome. Um, and so these bonobos were intellectualized. They were super kind. They were super nice. They were basically family to Sha Ming. But they were eventually killed. They were wiped out, and Sha Ming blamed himself. Even though, like, I feel like he knows it's not his fault, he still blamed himself and was so traumatized by it that he put on a mask. He became a Chinibyo and put on a mask to hide his true feelings because he didn't want to get close to anyone again. He didn't want to have the opportunity and possibility of losing someone he cares about again. And this is a real coping mechanism. This is something that people really do in real life. There are a lot of people who, upon experiencing intense trauma of specifically losing people like that, whether it's family members or friends or a partner, children, it's like a lot of them can, shut down and mask up in order to try to avoid that pain happening again. It's very common, actually. And a lot of times people can mask up like this for a lot of different types of trauma. It's not just this specific kind. Um, it's a coping mechanism, and it's not healthy. Speaking as someone who has done it, it's not healthy. Remember, I'm trans and non-binary, but I wasn't always out. And it is a form of masking when a person knows that they are trans or non-binary or whatnot, but like remains closeted for usually their protection, even if it's just emotional protection, physical protection, either way doesn't matter. It is a form of masking to stay in the closet and pretend to be someone else, pretend to be someone you're not. And in the case of me, it's like I really started to realize like only months before I actually came out. I came out pretty quickly. But like I always like to say that I always kind of knew. Because it's true, really. I always did kind of know, but I was basically told I had, growing up, like believing I was male, I was always told I had to act and think a certain way. And so I forced myself to mask up. I forced myself to pretend to live up to those standards, to pretend to like a lot of stuff I never actually liked. Or at least not as much as I pretended to. But I was told that's the kind of stuff I was supposed to like. And so I pretended to do so. I masked up. And in those months after like really after starting to figure like out why I was the way I was and why I liked the things I liked and everything, like in those months before I did come out, it's like, yeah, I was still putting on that mask. It was really only the month I came out, which was November of 2017. And that was just me coming out as trans. Like non-binary happened years later, but that's when I finally was able to be truthful even to myself. Again, even though I had realized why I had always felt the way I did, like months prior, I still didn't like live that way. until November of 2017. And so, yeah, it's something that I've had to experience throughout my entire life, even if not just because of like hiding my being trans, but just hiding who I was and pretending to be someone else that I never was. And eventually, like, I just basically stopped giving a damn and started living as myself. So, yeah. it's it's definitely interesting to think about like all the different ways and all the different reasons we mask up like that. And it's just unfortunate that there's so many examples, so many times where it's for our own safety. It sucks that we have to like do that. We shouldn't ever have to feel like we're in danger just by being our true selves. And no matter what that entails. It's like that's fucked up. That's not okay. And so I like that this series can make me think about stuff like this. And this episode definitely like endeared me a lot more to Shaming than I was before. Um, just because of personal connection as well as, genuinely liking characters like this. So, yeah. There's probably plenty more I could talk about. If there's anything else you want to know my thoughts on, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. I do see every comment, so I'll be able to answer if I need to, if you have a question or want any clarification on anything, or if you want to clarify something for me. But thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Let me know just your thoughts on this episode in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.